My first date was a woman named Jen, who, as it turns out, I'm still married to almost 30 years later. We're at the Liberty Cafe in Toronto having dinner. And for whatever reason, the question comes up: creativity. Are you born with it? Or is it something you build? So I said it's built. I told her we all have the potential to be highly creative. And Jen said, no, 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 no. You're either born creative or you're not. It's a gift you either have or you don't. And we never settled it. That argument has been sitting between us for almost 30 years. Because for me, this was never abstract. I mean, as a photographer, being creative isn't optional, it's the entire job. Without it, you're just a technician pointing a camera at things. So I went and spent the next 30 years figuring out which one of us was right. And here's what I found. See, creativity is not a gift, it's a muscle. And like any muscle, the more you use it, the more efficient you get, and the easier it becomes to reach for it. I rowed for years, and rowing taught me this better than anything. It's a strange sport. Technically, it's brutally difficult, and it's one of the most physically taxing things you can put a body through. You're using well over 80% of your muscles all at once, and it's a high oxygen demand sport. And what happens when you train is your body starts building these little microcapillaries through all your muscle tissue. The more and more tiny pathways, so more and more oxygen can get delivered to the system. And I think creativity works exactly the same way. The more you use it, the more pathways you build, and the easier it becomes to get to it when you need it. So the real question was never, do you have it? The real question now is, how do you build the pathways? And for me, it came down to three things. Right? The first one is learning to observe. Even now, when I'm not shooting nearly as much as I used to, I'm still studying light all the time because photography only captures one thing: light. No light, you get a black frame. Guaranteed. It is light that makes the image, nothing else. So I'm always watching how light interacts with everything, how it refracts through a piece of glass, how it bounces off a wall, how it lands on somebody's face. Let me give you an example of what I mean by really seeing. If you've ever been lucky enough to stand in the path of a total eclipse, during totality, the shadows go weird, they go wrong. I observed that everything has two shadows, and it's deeply, deeply eerie. Right? On some level, your brain knows something is completely off. And I think that's exactly why, right? Because there are two shadows on everything, and that's not natural. So your brain's reading an event it has no reference for, and the whole world just feels surreal. And that's what observation actually is. It's quietly building this internal library of how light behaves, how colors make you feel, how a scene reaches out and pulls at you, right? So that later when you need it, it's already sitting there for you to draw upon. Yeah, the second one is being willing to take a completely different perspective. I had a professor at Sheridan who was also the dean of the program, and he was the architectural prof. Right? We were shooting in the Toronto Reference Library, all using large format, and I'm setting up at this beautiful entranceway. And he walks over and he goes, "Hey, Ferd, what are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm doing the shot." And he's like, "No, drop the camera lower." I'm like, "Okay." And I start lowering the 4 or 5. He's like, "Lower." And I'm like, "Okay, it was awkward." Lower. And I'm starting to get really self-aware, right? And end up, basically, I'm lying on the ground now, just barely being able to look into the viewfinder, into the ground glass. Yeah. And then all he said was, "Yeah, no, that doesn't work for this job. But always think outside the box. Don't be afraid to go to an angle you'd never normally consider." And that really stuck with me, right? So now when I show up on a shoot, my first job is to figure out what the client actually wants. My second job is to ask, okay, and what are my options? And one of the very first things I do is ask myself, where would I never think of looking from? And then I go stand there. And the reason that works, the reason it's not just some gimmick, is that a new physical angle bypasses your own prejudgments. We walk up to a subject, and our brain has already decided what it is and how it should be shot, even before we've really had a chance to look at it. Right? So changing where you stand forces fresh eyes. It sidesteps all the restrictions you didn't even know you had put on the subject, and it cracks open a door to something unique, something you'd probably never have gotten to from the obvious spot everybody else is standing in. Right? And then the third one is the hardest. You have to stop building your own cage. And you learn this the second you try to do personal work. You sit down to make a portfolio piece, just for you. And then suddenly there are zero restrictions, right? The world is your oyster. You can make literally any image you want, and you freeze. You go, I don't know what to shoot, which is a complete lie. What was really happening was that I trained myself to need permission. Tell me what to shoot. See, I'd built the bars of the cage myself, and then I sat down right in the middle of them. And then one day I just stopped. Right? I realized if I want to make a product image, let me just look around at what I already have. And if I don't have anything that inspires me, let me go to a store and pick up a simple object, something that just reaches out to me. Right? No plan, no concept, just see what comes forward. And the other half of that is being willing to make mistakes. When I finally lost the fear of making mistakes, when I let myself create junk, and a lot of it, that's when the whole thing opened up. Because every piece of junk you make is moving you one step closer to the image. The only thing that matters is whether you're learning from it. Right? Are you observing? Are you present? Do you have the courage to try the angle, the light, the idea that might turn out to be complete garbage? Because one day, and I don't know what that magic number is, one day you move one thing, you come in from one direction, and the whole image just appears. And then you get there faster, and then faster again, until one day that becomes your normal, and you start pushing all over again. Now, I want to be open and honest with you about something, because there's a contradiction sitting in what I just told you. Right? I told you creativity is a muscle, that it's reps, it's effort, it's training. And then I turned around and told you the breakthrough only came when I stopped trying so hard and let myself let go. Well, so which is it? Let me tell you about the green apple. This was the early 90s. I was doing these images on 8x10 film, graphic representations of the Earth, like North America with a map raised off the globe, that kind of thing. And I had this idea, a green apple with the North American continent raised right off the surface of the apple using the skin itself. All done in camera on 8x10 film, and it was about 40 exposures on a single sheet. And I was really pushing myself to take it further than the other ones before it. The earlier ones were just globes and maps and, 5 globes sometimes side by side, different continents. This one used an actual photograph of the apple modified in camera through a system that I'd really designed myself. And it was the weekend, and I was sick, nauseous. I had the flu and I was splitting headache, running a fever, and I just couldn't get it to work. I was stuck. And at some point, I just stopped. I just stopped thinking about it, stopped questioning it, and just started doing it. Like, I knew the process. I'd done enough of these. So I got out of my own way and I just did the work. And I ended up with this green apple image. It wasn't even for a client. It was for my stock agency, the one who sold my images. I delivered it and they kind of shrugged. Yeah, it's all right. It's kind of cool, but we'll just put it in the catalog anyway. That image sold for 40,000 Canadian, which I believe was a record at the time for a single photographic image. A mutual funds company had bought the copyright outright and used it as their brand image for years. See, and here was the catch, because that image didn't exist by me trying to think my way through it. It only happened because I was too sick to do anything but surrender to it. And it wasn't a one-off. I noticed that pattern over the years. Right? Whenever I was physically exhausted or nauseous or fevered, the days I didn't even want to be there, those are the images that worked the best because my ego was out of it. I wasn't performing. I wasn't trying to prove anything. I was just in the flow, letting it move through me. And here's the flip side, right? The part that really proves it, right? The times I sat down determined to make the one image, the image that would separate me from the entire world. Yeah, those images failed the hardest, right? The wanting was the thing getting in the way. So both things are true at once. Building a muscle is the reps. That never goes away. You put in the years. But using it in the moment takes release. You train relentlessly, precisely so that when it matters, you can get your ego out of the way and let it flow. The work earns you the freedom. Now, somebody's already thinking it, so let me just say it for you. But Ferd, some people really are just naturally creative. Yeah, they are. Some people come in with a natural affinity for this stuff. The same way some people are born better natural athletes. I'm not going to pretend everybody starts from the exact same place because they don't. But here's the thing. That's not a gift either. That's a head start. Right? The kid who's a natural athlete still has to train, or he loses to the one who did. A natural affinity just means the muscle was already a little bit warm when you walked in the door. It doesn't build itself, and it doesn't stay ahead of somebody who's actually doing the work. The affinity gets you a few steps up the hill. It doesn't carry you up the hill. So, what is creativity really? It's seeing something or expressing something in a way that's uniquely yours. It doesn't mean everybody's going to love it. It doesn't mean it doesn't even have to make sense to anyone but you. It's bringing through an idea that simply didn't exist until you brought it through, or bringing something through in a way nobody else thought of. And I believe absolutely everyone has the ability in them. You just have to train it. You have to work at it. You have to be willing to make more mistakes than anybody else around you, which really means, Jen, almost 30 years later, I was right. But here's the part that is actually important to me. Being right about this doesn't make me special. It does the opposite. It means this thing is available to you, to anybody who's willing to put in the reps and let go of the fear of getting it wrong. It was never a gift somebody handed you at birth. It's a muscle, so go build it.